Welcome back to Sailing Second Star. Lots has been going on and we can't wait to share it with you. After our last video, I flew back to Canada to our inn on the Bay of Fundy, and my sons arrived the very next day, hopped aboard, and departed the Windelot factory in Canet-en-Roussillon, France on August 19th. The first leg of the Atlantic crossing had begun. On board was my husband Paul, my oldest son Robert, and my youngest Henry, along with Stefan Groves from Windelot. The weather was great and they used all of our sails, the Code Zero, the Jenniker, the Solent. It was an amazing learning experience to have Stefan aboard with his vast knowledge and skills. It took 5 days and the sailing conditions were excellent.
Hi, beautiful. You guys are so cool, I can hear you squeak. Hundreds and hundreds of dolphins. So many, holy shit. Woo-hoo!
My boys were sailing in the Mediterranean. Holy smokes, I couldn't believe it. When I heard they'd made an unscheduled stop in Minorca for a swim, the spoil-rotten bunch, I knew this little cast of characters were simply in heaven.
Oh my god.
They landed in La Linea, just north of Gibraltar. They refueled the boat and themselves and later met Richard, our new hired captain, and Bill, a professional first mate. Sadly, Stefan's time aboard had come to an end and our new crew was born. Robert and Henry wanted to make the most out of their time while they were in Gibraltar, so they grabbed the electric bikes, and this is where they met the monkeys. I personally believe that this is also the time when they decided to fashion their faces after those monkeys, and they all stopped shaving. The next morning, bright and early, they were off to the Azores. First, they had to cross the Strait of Gibraltar, and they were nervous about the orcas. As many of you know, orcas have been playing with sailboats, been biting off their rudders. Several have sunk and there's been a lot of damage. Stefan actually had an extra rudder made just for us in case, but they crossed without incident. However, that very same day, a boat was attacked by orcas. I guess we didn't look like we were going to be that much fun to play with. But the big news is that Henry finally caught a fish, and dinner plans quickly changed that night.
Yeah, he's still alive. Oh my God, that's a wahoo. That's a fantastic eating fish.
Good. I can keep that one.
Well, let me see.
Put it over, Robert.
This leg took 5 days. It was pretty much a close haul sailing with confused seas. Quite a bit more sporty, and Robert was basically green until he finally reached the Azores. On board was Paul, Robert, Henry, Richard, and Bill. I am so proud of these guys. They had accomplished something I had never even dreamt of. But the Azores is where our crew was about to get smaller. Both Robert and Henry had to get back to work. Henry had been working remotely aboard every single day, sometimes in Zoom calls in 3-meter seas, braced in a quarter with his background blurred. Paul was working too. Starlink was a game changer. This was it. It was the final leg from the Azores to Annapolis, and it began the very next day with just 3 on board, Paul, Richard, and Bill. It was a mixed bag. It started out beautiful, and then there was no wind at all. They motored for what seemed to be days, but the winds picked up and it got quite sporty, and the decision was made to go straight to Cape May and not to Bermuda. And the Gulf Stream certainly did not disappoint. When they hit it, a front had arrived at the same time, and they had 4-meter waves, and they sailed at 18 to 19 knots with 2 reefs. I asked Paul if he was scared, and he told me that he was actually on Zoom calls at the height of it all. He said it was exhilarating and not scary at all, but I would have wet my diapers. At 3 a.m. on September 19th, the day they were supposed to arrive, I woke up and I decided I was going to surprise Paul and I was going to fly to Annapolis. I called Henry to let him know that I wouldn't be flying back to Canada with them that day, and he decided to come too. We were both on a plane by 5 a.m., headed to BWI. They had done it. They had sailed from France to Maryland at the worst possible time of year, and Second Star had performed flawlessly. After a quick celebration, the staff from Windlow got Second Star ready for the Annapolis Boat Show. It had been nominated for Boat of the Year. At the show, we met so many great people interested in Windlow, and we even reconnected with some college friends of mine who had heard that we'd be there. We also attended the World Arc meeting to see if that might be something we could possibly do in 2026. But first, we need to leave the dock and sail the Chesapeake Bay. Then the next stop is Bermuda, or maybe we'll go straight to my favorite place on earth, the BVI's. We look forward to sharing our Chesapeake adventures with you shortly. And until then, fair winds.